Welcome everyone. So I've been going through some kind of a conflicting situation inside my life, which is that started understanding what Krishnamurti was talking about. That is not depending on authority, not being part of organizations, and trying to look at oneself without any of this dependence. And I found myself being in conflict, being part of the Theosophical Society, and withdrawing from many of their online Zoom meetings. So then I started thinking a lot about it, and I've been researching. And I thought I'll read all the information that I can get about Krishnamurti in this. So I came across this book, which is called The Inner Life of Krishnamurti by Aryel Sanat. And I'm going to do a book study of this book through this video. So in this book, there is so much that is being talked about, that is where what were how Krishnamurti, from a young man who was an innocent young man, he went on to become such a great teacher, and how his entire thinking evolved, and who were responsible for that thinking is completely compiled through various other books written on Krishnamurti, various biographies by this author called Aryel Sanat, and this book was published in 1999. Here is the author. It's called The Inner Life of Krishnamurti, Private Passion and Perennial Wisdom. Truly, this book has helped me to realize the value of theosophy, the value of what we do inside the Theosophical Society, that we keep the continuity of the teachings of Theosophical Society alive, although and on a psychological level, they may or may not change you the way Krishnamurti teaches one to change oneself. Being in the society may not change you, but what is taught in theosophy is also true. All the systems, or the place that a human being has in this universe, how the universe evolved, the nature of a man, all that knowledge is also true. So we cannot give up on all that knowledge that was given in the 19th century through the Theosophical Society. At the same time, we should not make that the only thing in our life. Krishnamurti talked about transformation, and that is the core of theosophy also. We have to transform ourselves from whatever we are today at whatever level. Maybe some of us are not as greedy as and others who are not on a spiritual track, but then there is still a level of greed, or of probably another quality or another nature. So recognizing ourselves, and the way to do that is through choiceless awareness. So once you are aware of what you are doing, what is your motive, why are you doing something, once you get aware, then you can easily rectify your mistake and understand yourself. So this is an inward process. So before we, I mean, to talk about transformation is another video altogether, and it's also something I'm still working on. So let us do this book study. So the first communication which came to Krishnamurti was in 1922 through C.W. Leadbeater from Puthumi. So what Puthumi says is to Krishnamurti is, of you too we have the highest hopes. Steady and widen yourself, and strive more and more to bring the mind and brain into subservience for the true self within. Be tolerant of divergences of view and of method, for each has usually a fragment of truth concealed somewhere within it, even though oftentimes it is distorted almost beyond recognition. Seek for that tiniest gleam of light amidst the Stygian darkness for each ignorant mind. By recognizing and fostering it, you may help a baby brother. So he's KH is this letter completely triggers Krishnamurti into starting to meditate, and from leading a very privileged life of a person only interested in uh, beautiful cars and love playing golf and other mechanical things, and leading a easy life, he started meditating, and just for half an hour every day. But in 14 days, there was a big change in Krishnamurti, and somewhere uninvited and unexpectedly, something happened to him. Why this kind of changes took place in Krishnamurti, why was Krishnamurti the one who was chosen, is because of the samskaras of Krishnamurti, because Krishnamurti had two qualities, one of the heart and one of the mind. His mind was a vacant mind. He had what the Buddhists would call shunyata, that was the state of his mind. And his heart was a pure heart. It wanted to do the right thing. It had loyalty and gratitude towards the people, towards his teachers, towards his elders, and towards the master. So that sense of love and gratitude that he had of the heart, these were the two causes which made Krishnamurti the ideal for this to take place. Now, the process was actually a physical phenomena, which means that there were some physical changes happening in Krishnamurti's brain and body. And here is a description of it given in the notebook written by Krishnamurti. All night it was there whenever I woke up. The head was bad going to the plane. The purification of the brain is necessary. So Krishnamurti is understanding why this is happening. The brain is the center of all the senses. The more the senses are alert and sensitive, the sharper the brain is. It is the center of remembrance, the past. It's the storehouse of experience and knowledge, tradition. It is limited. So it is limited, conditioned. Its activities are planned, thought out, reasoned, but its function in limitation in space time. It functions in limitation in space time. It cannot formulate or understand that which is the total, the whole, the complete. So the brain, everybody's brain, even including the most brilliant, is a limited brain. It cannot understand the whole. Now, the complete, the whole is the mind. The brain is what is inside us, the mind is outside us. This is something where here is where Krishnamurti is acknowledging the theosophical teachings. So the complete the whole is the mind. It is empty, totally empty. And because of this emptiness, the brain exists in space time. Only when the brain has cleansed itself of its conditioning, greed, envy, ambition, then only it can comprehend that which is complete. Love is that completeness. So, to understand what is love, which is that completeness, one has to remove one's conditioning, is what is written, thought about by Cave. Now, this process, like I already said, was a physical phenomena, and it was actually the Kundalini rising. And how what is this Kundalini rising? Is an energy which is there in the lowermost chakra in the spine, which is at the called the Muladhara chakra, and that energy when it rises up through each chakra changes the consciousness of the person, and the person becomes aware of different kinds of things, different levels of consciousness. And when that energy rises to the topmost chakra in the head, called the Sahasrara chakra, that's when he goes beyond time or space. So that feeling of being in a state of without time or space is experienced. Now, K suggested towards the later part of his life that a mutation of the brain senses its cells themselves is necessary for the changes to take place. So this type of change will lead to a holistic thinking. Now, what he says is that whatever was this nature of this change, it has whatever was the nature of this process, it happened to me, but it doesn't mean that every one of the people who are involved in this will also have to go through all this. Like he says that just like Christopher Columbus went to America through an arduous train journey, ship journey. But after that, now we fly in a matter of hours to go between the continents. So it is the first time that it happens, and Krishnamurti was the first person to which this kind of change was done physically in the brain cells, in the change in the brain cells of Krishnamurti itself. The masters did some work which removed that self-building, that me-oriented thinking to a holistic way of thinking. So here, let's read what is quoted. Our lives will remain full of fear, confusion, and violence as long as we are unwilling to die completely to these recursive patterns in the brain. Case explorations suggest that it is those recursive patterns in the brain that keep us from being sensitive to ourselves, to one another, and that which is. So, because we have a certain kind of repetitive way of functioning, the way we look at others, the way we look at ourselves, we are unable to be really sensitive to our own self sometimes, our own feelings sometimes, and to the feelings of others. And then we are not sensitive to that immense energy, or that Atma or Paramatma which is all around us. So this is something very interesting that one can think about, that K was possibly the first person who the kind of nature that future humanity could have. Now, the strength and beauty of a tender leaf is its vulnerability to destruction. So, this is another small snippet which tells us that we're always trying to make ourselves very strong, fight worthy, be ready to fight. Is it really necessary? Because then you are making such a human person who has no sensitivity. So, since let's now further look at what he writes more. Since August 3rd, I meditated regularly for about 30 minutes every morning. I could, to my astonishment, concentrate with considerable ease. And within a few days, I began to see clearly where I had failed and where I was failing. Immediately, I set about consciously to annihilate the wrong accumulations of the past. With the same deliberation, I set about to find out and means to achieve my aim. When I realized that I had to harmonize all my other bodies with the Buddhic plane, the level of awareness immediately above the conceptual plane, and to bring about this happy combination, I had to find out what my ego wanted on the Buddhic plane. To harmonize the various bodies, I had to keep them vibrating at the same rate as the Buddhic. And to do this, I had to find out what was the vital interest of the Buddhic. With ease, which rather astonished me, I found the main interest on that high plane was to serve the Lord Maitreya and the masters. With that idea clear in my physical mind, I had to direct and control the other bodies to act and to think the same as on the noble and spiritual plane. During that period of less than 3 weeks, actually closer to 10 days, I concentrated to keep in mind the image of Lord Maitreya throughout the entire day, and I found no difficulty in doing this. I found that I was getting calmer and more serene. My whole outlook on life was changed. So, this is the continuation of his experience, which is written in the notebook. Now, in the book, yeah, this is from excerpt from the book itself. There seems to have been, that is the book which is the Inner Life of Krishnamurti, which we are studying now. There seems to have been an intimate connection between case process and the mutation required for creation of a new humanity. The only credible explanation for the process seems to be that it was initiated, guided, and protected by the perennial teachers personally, using their yogic abilities. This is what Krishnamurti himself said all along about these experiences. From the evidence available, it seems that K's only and critical contribution to the process were his vacuity of conditioning and his predisposition to serve the perennial teachers. So I think this has already been explained that because of his absence of thinking in his brain, that too much of thought process, his sense of blankness which was there in his brain, and also his devotion to the perennial teachers. This is why he was to be became the instrument of change, and he was the masters personally worked on Krishnamurti to change that aspect of his brain for a different kind of thinking. So the first initiation, or maybe it was the second, I don't know what is basically in this book. It talks about initiation is a way of negating everything that one already has. That is, dying to the known is what is negation, is initiation. So every time one is initiating, one is completely changing from whatever we know as true now to a totally different thing. So we're dying to everything we know. So the first initiation or the second initiation of K took place in 1922. The Lord Maitreya, our planetary spirit, the planetary spirit of the whole earth, along with other masters, visited Krishnamurti at Ojai when he was meditating under the pepper tree, and the first initiation happened. So here again, we are looking at what is initiation. The candidate dies to the old associations, identifications and expectations of life, implying that a greater field is opened up by the process of dying to the known. One purpose of initiation then is to help the candidate awaken to a richer, wiser, more compassionate life than was possible as long as he or she continued the old ways. The initiation is partly a confirmation of a tendency or even an actuality already present in the candidate. It's a kind of huge change that happens inside a candidate. Further, it strengthens a link between the candidate and anyone else in the world who has been to the mountaintop and seen from a more universal perspective. and now lives freer of the conditioning of any culture, system, or expectations. That is, you get more tied to the people who are more evolved. Now, what if you want to go further in this? There is a very interesting article written by Ariel Sanat, in which he compares what's happening, what is the purpose, or what is in the purpose of writing the secret doctrine, to what Krishnamurti has been teaching all along. And he says that the secret doctrine quotes the stanzas of dhyan. The word dhyan means meditation, but it also means jana, or janam, or new birth, or rebirth. Those stanzas refer to a rebirth of every individual who goes to them, who follows what that those stanzas are saying, the stanzas of Dhyan, which is what the secret doctrine is based on. So, what Ariel Sanat has said in that beautiful article, which was published in the American Theosophist, and you can Google to find that article, you will find that the entire secret doctrine is about self transformation, just as Krishnamurti's teaching is all about self transformation. So, now let's go on. But now there is so much of conflict where, when it comes to these two organizations, they don't work together. Actually, they work independently. K Foundation and Theosophical Society, they're completely different organizations in terms of their content. Also, they only the Krishnamurti in Krishnamurti's the K organization, Krishnamurti Foundation organization, they do not publish anything other than Krishnamurti's writings. Whereas, of course, Theosophical Society publishes various writings of various budding and mature theosophists. Also, they do not believe in giving lectures on topics and all that, which now we do see change. I noticed that there is some change in YouTube, and there are people who study groups in Indore, for example, who are studying Krishnamurti. So, but yeah, let's now look at why K broke from TS. He came to perceive that the vast majority of theosophists felt themselves part of the elite. They did not seem to have the level of commitment required to go through an initiation in the perennial sense, that is, dying completely to the known, which includes notions of oneself as superior or inferior. Of course, that is those theosophists at case time. Today's theosophists are studying Krishnamurti also. They realize the value of Krishnamurti, and they try to implement that in their own lives. So, I think that what this book talks often refers to theosophists in this manner, that they are sort of rigid in their thinking, which my personal experience with my friend theosophist is not there. So, what were the masters really trying to achieve with K? Perhaps K was the spearhead of an effort on the part of the perennial teachers to make the perennial practice of initiation more common, rather than something only a handful of people take part in. If so, then we could also say that K carried further the movement begun by HPV to put behind the secrecy and the occultism formally surrounding the perennial philosophy, making it more accessible to everyone. So, yeah, it's true that, I mean, all that is taught in the secret doctrine by HPV is now in the open. I mean, everything is known. Although, even if you know, for example, being a theosophist, I know that there are 7 bodies, but I'm not only aware of my physical body. I have zero awareness of my even my so-called astral double, my etheric double. I have no awareness of that. I may say, okay, here, do this, and here you see something spongy between the hands, but then, it doesn't mean anything more. It's finally, what is real to me is my thought process and my feelings, much more than any of these bodies. So, when we are talking about the esoteric philosophy, the fact that it was out in the open, it doesn't really change the psychology of human beings, which is where K's teachings become very, very useful. Now, let's go further. It's very interesting here that what the Vishnu Puran predicted, and also HPB quoted in the Secret Doctrine, is something which is happening in today's age. Vishnu Puran said that in today's age, then property alone will confer rank, wealth will be the only source of devotion. Passion will be the sole bond of union between the sexes. Falsehood will be the only means of success in litigation. And women will be objects merely of sexual gratification. Earth will be venerated but for its mineral treasures. So true of today's days. For all the brutality that with all this Botox that women are doing and bodybuilding and nonsense, making, each other just sexual partners without understanding what is love. And similarly, what we're doing to the earth, the complete lack of care for what's happening to the earth. So, yes, it's happening in today's days. Vishnu Puran predicted it. Now, Lord Maitreya was supposed to have come at such a time, and he has come, and his teachings are there through Krishnamurti. HPB and CWL both predicted the beginning of the new age or sixth root race from California, which is where K lived most of his life. K and the masters. K always affirmed that the existence of the masters was there, and also acknowledged that the Lord Maitreya was using his body to communicate. But K was always against any kind of spiritual authority and seemingly against theosophy. K's response when asked why the masters do not communicate as they did earlier, to which he replied, there is no need now that the Lord is here. So this is one of the things that K sort of hinted it and had talked about it in other subsequent lectures. I don't know whether it's part of my presentation, but he has said that when the Lord was speaking through K, all the other masters were silent because the most important, it was extremely important to hear what K was saying. And here is where I am again conflicted with the present Theosophical Society, which I feel is not paying enough attention to what K is saying, and we are getting lost in what so many other sayings, because it is really very hard to learn and apply and develop oneself based on K's teachings, or develop. It's again this, when the self is not there, what are we developing? But that change, to change ourselves as per case, it's hard. And if I were in any kind of if I had any kind of pull or push in the Theosophical Society, I would work very hard to apply case teachings in the society. I mean, that is all I would do, because that is so already so hard. So knowing all the knowledge aspect, yes, the knowledge intrigues us. It intrigued me. I went through all that. I studied all that, all these chains and rounds. If you've seen my previous videos, I have done all that, but it doesn't change me as a person. It doesn't make me less angry when somebody hurts me. It doesn't make me less worried about what people think of me. It doesn't make me more compassionate human being. All this knowledge makes me still the same rotten human being that I am. So for me, I need that change. I need to develop myself. I need to have some reason to live, which is, unless there is some change in me, there is simply no point. So this is where I conflict, and I'm glad I'm able to talk about it. I have no ill will towards anybody. I'm simply grateful to the Theosophical Society. Because of them, I came to K, and because of K, I'm learning so many things. But yeah, I have, these are my feelings today. I mean, yeah, I might change. Now, K never spoke of the system of theosophy, but he did use theosophical terms like masters to express his experiences. He did not prescribe to any belief system and spoke against beliefs and asked to see things just as they are. He said that look at things as they are. That is choiceless awareness without your conditioning. So let's now look at more like what was the process. From the umpteen records and books available, the process meant something that happened to K's mind and brain, by which mutation took place, and that mighty consciousness of Maitreya could fill K's mind. This happened in painful intervals throughout K's life, and whenever it happened, there was more than one master present there in astral form supervising it. K's mind appeared to be like a sponge, absorbing all that, yet had no pride or conceit. Perhaps such an experiment was a first of its kind in human history. So when I read something like this, again, it makes me feel, it burns inside me that how much suffering and how much effort K and the masters put to bring out that all those words that K spoke. And isn't it important for us to hear them over and over again and absorb what K was trying to teach us? And why do we not pay far more attention to K than is necessary? Like we talk about him parallel to Ramana, parallel to what Kuthumi may have said in the the letters to the masters, Mahatma letters, for example, or what masters conveyed through the secret doctrine. All that was there, but then there was all this beautiful new teaching that was coming through K, and there was so much effort. A human being, that is K, sacrificed his life for this teaching to come out. So isn't it our responsibility to look more carefully at the teaching? What happened with K was the opening of the chakras in his brain, which was supposed to be seven in number. So there are seven chakras inside the brain too, and they were supposedly kept open throughout his life. Of these seven chakras, we know of the pituitary and the pineal gland, which are both exactly in the middle of the brain. The pineal is just behind the eyes, and the pituitary is further behind and above. Pineal helps in clairvoyant abilities, and pituitary in will. Both will be developed in future humanity. But in case, these glands and other centers are made to develop forcefully, which is why he was so much in pain. Perhaps the masters wanted to make one individual who will be like future humanity for all to understand and emulate. Essentially, the non duality, which is present everywhere but not yet sensed by humans, will develop. So, this is the future of humanity. K did not want to create a new religion about him, so he rarely spoke of the masters or Maitreya. Now, all this was happening to him, he knew it, but he never spoke about it. He also said that the way to destroy the world teacher is to do what the Grand Inquisitor did, to create religion around him, a system of ideas and practices that provide false security for the fearful, to worship him rather than cleanse our lives of the conditioning with which they are saturated, to make concrete and conceptual everything connected with the sacred. So instead of making things sacred, one has to look at what's happening inside us. I think, it's very strange that we have become more and more alienated from what we are, thanks to the phone. All our smart devices are distracting us so much that now we don't even know who we are, what we are thinking. We're constantly just getting entertained from one entertainment to another entertainment, one escapism to another escapism. That's what we are doing when we are watching things on YouTube, which you are doing right now too. But do think that it may that put aside time, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to put aside time where I will stay without my phone during the day, and I will see what happens inside me. So K and the TS. He also made it clear that what he was saying was not meant exclusively for theosophists or members of the Order of the Star, but that he would be teaching the world at large. He strongly suggests that his imminent break with theosophists was integral to the development of his work and was not necessarily a blanket criticism of them. I have always in this life and perhaps in past life desired one thing: to escape, to be beyond sorrow, beyond limitations, to discover my Guru, my beloved, which is your Guru and your beloved, the Guru, the beloved, who exists in everybody, who exists under every common stone, in every blade of grass that is trodden upon. It has been my desire, my longing to become united with him so that I should no longer feel that I was separate, no longer be a different entity with a separate self. When I was able to destroy that self utterly, I was able to unite myself with my beloved. Hence, because I have found my beloved, my truth, I want to give it to you. This is what Kay said in 1927. Now we look at Kay's teachings. So, on authority, what Kay says is when we give a religious symbol, figure, or organization authority, we give up our own responsibility for what is in our lives and our actions. Instead, we learn to live in a state of awareness that is prescribed in the religion. There will be We learn to live in the state of awareness that is prescribed in the religion. There will be change in our pattern of thinking and acting. So we need to learn to live in the state of awareness. Every religion talks about living in a purer state, but instead of doing that, we become dependent on religions. That's what he's saying. Adhering to predetermined patterns is exactly what conditioning is all about, and deeply felt identification with any pattern implies segregation from those who are not so identified. This is an adversarial, violent attitude to have towards others, whether one knows them or not. When you identify yourself as an Indian, as a woman, as any kind of professional, any way you identify yourself, you are immediately violently segregating yourself from others, and you don't realize that you are actually doing that. Anyone who identifies with a particular organized religious group that is supporting fragmentation and conflict, a truer morality must be based on unconditional respect for all human beings. An unconditional respect for all human beings. One can sort of put that, as sticky note everywhere that can we do that. The teachings again continued on practices. They have bought mantra yoga from India, and you also have it in the Catholic world. Ave Maria repeated 100 times. This is done on a rosary and obviously for the time being quietens the mind. A dull mind can be made very quiet by the repetition of words and does have strange experiences. But those experiences are utterly meaningless. A shallow mind, a mind that is frightened, ambitious, greedy for truth or for wealth of this world, such a mind, however much it may repeat some so-called sacred word, remains shallow. If you have understood yourself deeply, learned about yourself through choiceless awareness, and have laid the foundation of righteousness, which is order, you are free and do not accept any so called spiritual authority whatsoever. Though obviously one must accept certain laws of society. See, what he's trying to say, if you try to think about what he's trying to say, he's saying that once you're totally aware of yourself and you have put yourself on the right path, in a path of order where you are not in conflict with anybody, you are not trying to prove anything to anybody, you are not trying to, manipulate others to do something which you think will make you feel better about your life. You're not doing any of those things. You put a foundations of righteous living. Then you lead a proper life. So that is more important than doing meditation, sitting hours together, having a blank mind. That is not of any use. So, continuing, meditation is the awareness of fear, of the implications on the structure and the nature of pleasure, the understanding of oneself, and therefore the laying of the foundation of order, which is virtue, in which there is that quality of discipline, which is not suppression, nor control, nor limitation. Such a mind then is in a state of meditation. You are, in fact, pursuing a method that promises a reward. And when you practice a method day after day, the mind obviously becomes mechanical. There's no freedom in it. A method implies that it is a way laid down by somebody who's supposed to know what he's doing. So now, if you again think about this, that instead of doing this mechanical thing called meditation, if you think clearly about what is going on inside you, and you lay the foundations of order. Now, this is something very interesting that one can think a little more about it. What are the foundations of your life? Means what? What are those thoughts that on which you base your life? So if you base your life like I will not cheat anybody, I will not hurt anybody, I will not do anything where I take advantage of somebody. I will not be take make another person feel bad in his life. So many things could be your foundations of your life. So when you live that ordered way of living, imagine the human being who has laid such a foundation. He's obviously a very saintly character. He is anyone who comes near him feels very blessed because that human being becomes such a beautiful and divine soul. And that is what, of course, all of us are supposed predicted to become, but unless we put an effort, we are not going to become better. That is daily practicing, the daily polishing, making your life into a routine so that gradually, ultimately, it may take 5, 10, or any number of years, you will be in a state to understand what truth is, what enlightenment and reality are, and so on. Quite obviously, no method can do that because method implies is practice. And a mind that practices something day after day becomes mechanical, loses its quality of sensitivity and its freshness. You cannot ever know what truth is because it is a living thing. Whereas a method, a path laid down the steps to be taken in order to reach truth, as the truth is something that is fixed and permanent, tied down for your own convenience. So, this is one of the greatest teachings of Krishnamurti, that don't fix yourself with anything, don't get attached to any teaching. Don't get attached. The moment you attach yourself to any teaching, including what K is telling, you are going to become a violent person. You're going to hate everybody. You're going to try to change everybody. You're going to do all that. Why do you want to change everybody? Your job is to change yourself. You change yourself, somebody others will change themselves. Let each person change himself. So that is what he's saying. That is the yeah. So let's go on. Now on Maitreya, what does he say? The Maitreya cannot manifest. It would be like the sky manifesting. It is the teaching that manifests. K also states matter of factly that the boy Krishna had been prepared for the manifestation of the avatar. Here he makes no attempt to confirm the numerous statements in the years of awakening, some of them in his own words, that he was the vehicle of Maitreya. What is the core of K's teaching? K also states unambiguously that the most important thing is a transformation of our lives. He appeals to a fact finding faculty in us rather than to the enhancing expectations of the dualistic brain cortex. So I end this video with this, and I am wow. So I'm really glad that you all are part of this video, and I managed to do this whole thing without goofing up. I just thought I'd goofed up by not pressing record in the beginning. But yes, um, I don't know. I mean, I make these videos sometimes for my own self to remember what I thought at today's day, for example. Sometimes I have some profound, insights. And while I'm making these videos, I get insights. So that's why I make these videos, because it becomes very interesting for me to watch it also in the future. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's useful. And there were questions in my previous video on talking more about K. Like I said, K's teaching should never be secondhand. It's best to go first and read it directly through the horse's mouth, and that's what I would say. I never would want to interpret K's teachings. Let's never interpret his teachings, and let's understand that by when we make a religion around him, we are doing exactly what he doesn't want. So if you have any gratefulness for the life of K, for the work that he did, let us follow what he said, which is do not make a religion around him. Let's work on ourselves. Let's work on all that he taught. Let's reminisce over it, discuss over it, but never make him the center of the teachings. So thank you so much, and bye.